Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this third session of today's Norman Manley Law School Legal Aid Clinics Legal Aid Fair. This is an annual affair, and this year we're continuing the theme, Law of the Land, Sea and Me, Charting a Sustainable Future for All. Today's presentations will be conducted primarily by students of the Norman Manley Law School Legal Aid Clinic. We will begin this segment with a presentation from Group I, treating with recovery after a natural disaster. And our second presentation today will feature students from Seminar Group J. I will at this time thank you for joining us and invite you to come visit us at the Legal Aid Clinic tomorrow, Thursday, where we'll have a live all-day fair with various exhibitors indicating what their services will be. We invite you to come and join us at that time, and we'll be commencing from 9 o'clock. At this time, I will hand over to the moderator for today's session, Ms. Kimberly Campbell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mrs. Balli, for such a warm welcome. Thank you all for joining us today, whether you are here in studio with us or online. The topic for Seminar Group I presentation is Recovery After a Natural Disaster, recovery focused on sustainability. We chose this as our theme because we want to do more than just bounce back. We want to be more resilient. Seminar Group I is particularly passionate about this topic as some of our own group members are from parts of the island who suffered terribly. And like many other Jamaicans, we have all been impacted emotionally from this devastation. Our presentation today will take the form of a panel discussion, and it will be moderated by two of our group members, Ms. Althea Pinto and Ms. Latoya Sterling. Our discussion would not be possible today without our guests, and they are Mrs. Georgette Harrison, who is the Senior Director, Land Administration and Management Division of the National Land Agency, Mr. Sean Sibley's, the Marketing Officer of the National Housing Trust, and Mr. Kendall Smith, the Client Relationship Specialist at the Jamaica National Bank Limited. Please let them feel welcome. Thank you. Without further delay, tune in to our discussion, and I now hand over to our moderators.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, many families across the island were not only rebuilding their homes, but also trying to recover important documents destroyed by wind and flood waters. For some residents, the loss of a roof was only the beginning. Vital records, including land titles, were also damaged or washed away, creating new challenges for those now seeking assistance to rebuild. Today, we speak with one resident who is facing that very struggle, and we also hear from the National Land Agency about what steps that can be taken if your property title has been lost or destroyed. Our reporter is on the ground in one of the affected communities, speaking with a resident who has been directly impacted.
Thanks for tuning in to JTV's ongoing feature on recovering after Hurricane Melissa. Today we have Miss B, a resident of Black River, to tell us about her experience. Miss B, we can see that you are very distressed. What can you tell us about your experience with Hurricane Melissa?
Why, Mrs. Everything wet up, everything mud up, everything mash up. Me not have nothing. Watch there.
No, Miss B, that's your home over there. I can see where you lost your roof.
Yeah, that's my house over there, so yes. Mine, me can't even prove for my house. You know, in the cycle, I can say, when you go off in the hours of morning, the water just come in, wake up the bed, and the cycle that's on it. So everything.
My. I am sure there must be some way for us to recover a lost or damaged title. You can't be the only person going through this situation after a crisis.
So that was a clip from our reporter. Mrs. Harrison, again, welcome. We're so
Thank you.
happy to have you here this afternoon
Thanks for
with us.
tuning in to JT.
Yes. Could you guide us through the process of what happens when a title is lost, displaced, or destroyed?
Okay. Allow me to just give you a little background. Okay. So we are primarily governed when it comes onto an application by the Registration of Titles Act and the Registrations of Titles, Cadastral Mapping and Tenure Clarification Provisions Act. And I speak about that act because sometimes when you try to do a regular application under the Registration of Titles Act, it may be expensive for the average client. And so in 2005, the Special Provisions Act was passed to alleviate some of these difficulties. And so what happened was that the minister under Section 3 is allowed to declare parishes or places as project areas. And so all parishes in Jamaica, save and except for parts of Kingston and St. Andrew, right now can benefit under this. They are all project areas. What does that mean for persons in Westmoreland or St. Elizabeth or anywhere? Is that your land falls within this project area. And that means you get two benefits. One benefit being reduction in legal fees, and the second, reduction in registration fees. So to give you an example, when we charge legal fees at the Land Administration Management Division, we charge based on tax roll value and not true value, right? So if you were to go to an attorney at law to do an application for a lost title application, they will probably charge you anywhere between $150,000 and $300,000, along with the other miscellaneous costs, advertisements, etc. Because we charge based on tax roll value, the average property on the tax roll value would be between $1 million and $5 million, right? And our legal fees is based on that value. And so you're looking at legal fees anywhere between $11,000 and $13,000.
Wow.
Compared to that $300,000, right? We also charge a miscellaneous fee of about $10,000. The registration fee is $8,000. And advertisement, of course, you know, when you advertise, it's based on the number of words. So an advertisement could run between $10,000 and $15,000. But because we have a special relationship with advertisement persons, we do our advertisements of about $5,000, 4,000 something when we break it down, right? So you're looking at an overall cost of anywhere between $35,000 and $37,000 for a typical application, right? So I would encourage all those persons who would have lost their titles or had their titles destroyed because of the hurricane to visit us at the Land Administration Management Division. We are at 8 Arden Road. And for those persons who don't want to travel all the way to Kingston, my staff goes out once per month to the Mandeville Regional Office, NLA's regional office in Mandeville. We go the last Wednesday of each month. So the same services that you would get at Arden Road, you could literally get it there at Mandeville Regional. I'm very glad we actually had a chance to look at this scenario because just recently we, and by we I mean the Land Administration Management Division and the Land Titles Division, we have been having a discussion about how we can help those people, how we can simplify the form. So we're looking at simplifying the lost title application form and also ensuring that when the applications come through the Land Administration Management Division and they are sent to Land Titles Division, that they get preference. So they move a lot faster. So what is it a client needs? When you're coming, you're going to need to at least know your volume and folio. So if you didn't take a picture of your title and you lost it, you may have a tax number. If you have a tax number, we can use that to assist you to find the volume and folio. We're going to need identification. Again, we recognize that some persons may have lost their identification. And so we're also working on a form that will basically be signed by a justice of the peace, you know, indicating that they know this person to be the person. So we haven't finalized it yet, but we're working on it. In fact, it needs to be done very soon. But outside of that, you can still come to us to do the regular applications. We'll assist you with that at the reduced cost as I indicated. All right.
Okay, so that's very good information, to know for our persons here in studio and also the persons online. So we know that the National Land Agency is about recovery, and that is our theme for today as well. They have instituted steps in order to help Jamaicans who have greatly suffered to recover their titles, and this program is well appreciated and needed at this time, actually.
Yes, definitely. All right, so we will, just a moment. Does it? All right, so we'll revisit and see, take questions from the audience at another time. And we will now move on to the case study in relation to NHD. Now, today's skit highlights a situation where many young couples face for work, and working families can relate to frustration of renting, owning a home, being challenged by landlords, limited income, uncertainty as to where to start. The dream of home ownership can sometimes feel out of reach. Through this light-hearted, realistic conversation between friends, we will explore questions about eligibility, income, contributions to National Housing Trust, and whether owning a home may be more possible than it actually seems. Let's watch Alice and Patsy discuss what might be the first step toward independence and stability.
Then Alice, how are you sitting on Alice?
Hand over now to our tech team.
My dear, I just wonder when me are going to leave myself. Family says she blew up, come on, gone. So the parents still catch up with me. But I have no money to fix up the house.
Mm-hmm. So you never get no money from NHD or building society?
Money? No, we never tried at all. But I know to say fix up at your house.
Yes, man. I got a loan from NHD way back in November last year. They put out a hurricane relief loan.
That's nice to know.
Yeah. I got one my home to them because I have a mortgage. They lend money for repair and installation. But did you know they also lend money if you had mortgages from other institutions?
Not at all. I'm going to have to try call them and find out more information.
Come on, you need to take it up.
All right, Mr. Sibley's, welcome again to our panel discussion. I'd like for you to enlighten our audience about any special initiatives that the National Housing Trust has in place now for persons who have been affected by Hurricane Melissa. Any grants or loans or any other provisions that are now in place?
Thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. So here at the NHG, we understand exactly what happened with Hurricane Melissa. And as such, we made some provisions to assist these individuals to get back on their feet. So we do have a few options. However, I will refer to my colleague here from NLA. The first part of the process starts with you making that application for your title in the event that it is misplaced. Because in order to access funding or support to the NHD is one of two things. One, you must have an existing title, or two, you must be an active contributor at the National Housing Trust. So what we did to provide some support for Hurricane Melissa victims, or we had a hurricane grant of up to $500,000. So these individuals who are active contributors of the NHD could have accessed this facility to assist in rebuilding of their units. So what we did now, we actually went a little bit further as well. So we do understand that there are some persons who are not contributing who were affected. So what we went ahead and did is that a family member can actually apply for the individual who is an active contributor, so that that individual can get support, can get support of the funding. So we try to ensure that everybody can get the necessary support to rebuild, or however support that we can offer. We try to ensure that is there. Another facility that we we implemented is a special, what we call hurricane relief loan of up to $3.5 million. So under normal circumstances, if you are a mortgager of the NHD, you'd have to wait until 7 years before you be eligible for what we refer to as a 7+ home improvement loan. So what we did, we actually removed that. We actually created a new facility to say that these persons who are affected can access up to $3.5 million at a special interest rate of 2%. Under normal circumstances, the applicable interest rate would range from 0 to 5%. So what we did is actually just made a standard interest rate of 2%. So these individuals can actually access this facility. And also one of the most important ones, which I should have started with, is the peril insurance. If you are mortgagers of the NHD and your mortgage is being serviced with NHD, then you can always submit an application for a peril insurance. And peril insurance is just exactly what I said. In the event of a disaster, you can make a claim. And it's a pretty simple process. What you need to do is just complete the application form, a valid ID, as well as submit pictures of the damages as well as an estimate, and then we submit it to our insurance unit, and then they do necessary assessment and follow-ups, and then afterwards, then we can make out some payments to the individual. So we try to provide as much options and support to our individuals. And of course, for the persons, we still have the regular loan facilities, which is the 7+ home improvement for persons who are in a position to access that facility to rebuild their units. They can access that as well. It's up to a maximum of $5 million at a variable interest rate ranging from 0 to 5%. And for persons who are homeowners independent of the NHD, they can also access that facility up to $5 billion at the same variable interest rate ranging from 0 to 5%.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sibley. So tell me some more about what you have in place for existing mortgagers who may have been affected. Is there any moratorium? Is there any relief? Anything like that?
Yes, so what we did for the moratorium aspect of it is for persons who were affected in the 7 most western parishes up to, I believe it was Manchester. What we did, we actually automatically stopped their salary deduction, stopped their deductions. So they actually had a moratorium for up to 6 months. And that is an automatic implementation. For the other individuals on the eastern side of the parish, they were not left out. They still have access to the very same facility. However, it was an automatic pause on their payments. So we take those individuals as a case-by-case scenario. Based on their scenario, then we do the assessment, and if we realize that it's a need, then we can go ahead and offer the same facility towards them.
Okay. In terms of the grant, going back to the grant, what has the uptake been from Jamaicans, and if you can give me a figure as to how much the trust has paid out to Jamaicans?
It's been good. I can't tell you the exact amount. I know there was a reporting amount. I couldn't remember the amount, but we have gone over, I believe, about $20 million in the grant so far, and we still have quite a number of applications still to process. So if you still need to submit an application, please go ahead and submit your application to the nearest branch.
All right, thank you very much. It sounds like the trust is really interested in the development of Jamaicans, and that we are really happy. On behalf of all Jamaicans and all of us here, we'd like to express our appreciation for that. Now, we move now to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, tell us some more about how important home insurance is. I mean, even, looking back hindsight for Hurricane Melissa, and how the persons have benefited from home insurance, or how those who have not had insurance, how they have not, how they have been impacted.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. Home insurance is very important, and as a premier mortgage provider, JN Bank wants to ensure that each and every one would have had adequate insurance coverage for their homes. From time to time, of course, persons would have had the insurance company writing to them asking that they increase coverage. But I can tell you that I've seen where instances, even recently with the Melissa disaster, There was one particular client I recall, she is in the Middle East, and she had messaged me during the hurricane to tell me that there was an issue with her home. She lost her roof.
Wow.
And the beauty about the insurance is that she was able to submit her claim and have the restoration of her roof put in place within 30 days.
Wow.
So it is effective, and at the same time, you want to ensure that you have adequate coverage to restore you to where you are. Insurance is on the rise, of course, based on our geographical location. So it's always important to shop around, even though JN may say you can go to this insurance company. We have a panel of insurance companies that you can actually insure with to ensure that you get competitive rates and at the same time have adequate coverage to cover you in the event of any disaster, not just a hurricane, but also fire, flood, earthquake, and so on. And of course, you would have seen the numerous earthquakes that we have been experiencing in the couple months thus far. So it's very important for persons to understand that insurance is important, and don't just see when an insurance company write to you to say, hey, listen, we propose that you increase to ensure that you're adequately covered. Some persons will just throw it aside, believe it or not. We want to ensure that you have 100% coverage, because in the event of that peril, we don't want it to be taking on that portion that you're not insured for on your own, because the bank is not going to cover you there.
Well, thank you for that very good explanation of the importance of having home insurance. But audience, there is no coincidence why we have Mr. Smith from Jamaica National and Mrs. Siblis from the NHT, because we know that JN partners with NHT for home loans. So could you expand on the types of loans and the partnership that you currently have with the National Housing Trust?
Sure. As the premier mortgage provider, we have been around for more than 150 years. And what we believe is that you can come, JN is like the supermarket. There is something on every shelf for you, for each and every one. Essentially, what we offer to persons who would want to come to JN is that one-stop shop where you can actually come to get practically all the benefits that the NHT offers, outside of the grant, of course, because some of those facilities are only accessible through the NHT. But when you come to JN, we actually communicate with the NHT to find out how much it is that you are eligible for. You will be getting that same rate, and anything that is in excess of that will be given to you at the bank's rate, which is competitive. There are instances, I should add, that, and I want to point this out specifically. While I commuted here, I wanted to point this out. We are possibly the only financial institution in Jamaica right now that can give someone a construction loan that makes sense. Believe it or not. Yes, so essentially, I say this because there is one other competitor that does construction loans, but the conditions are so onerous. When you hear what they are, you will back off and say, no, I can't take on that. We can give you up to 100% financing to build your home, subject to you having the ability to repay, of course. So in every instances that we look at, we're going to be looking at what income you have, all the income streams you have that are verifiable, of course, because we want the black and white to be there, so we can adjudicate to say this is the income that is sustainable to do A, B, and C. And of course, when it is that you come to JN, probably 9 out of 10 instances, we can give you 100% financing to build your home. 9 out of 10 circumstances. There are loans that we can also give you to improve your home. So if you would have had your home already, whether it be from the trust or another financial institution, we can give you a second mortgage, which may not be as much as you want, because we can extend ourselves up to a maximum of 60% of the improved value of the home. But the good part is that if you were to come to JN to access our financing, whether it be even the NHT funds only, because if you are not aware, you can come directly to the financial partner, JN, and get your NHT loan only. Yes, even if it's NHT funds only, you can come to us, get that funds with the view of having that property has that investment that will give you other opportunities, whether it be funds for educational purposes, medical expenses, you name it. We are able to offer you all of those facilities using that same property for that security. When you'd have gone elsewhere to take that loan, it puts you at a disadvantage because we would have not had the first lien, so we're not willing to take the risk as much as having the first lien in place. When it is that we have that lien on the property, the possibilities are endless. I see a lot of persons now looking to improve on their homes. I can talk about one particular development in St. Catherine, which is Phoenix Park Village. You may have heard of it. That is
Yes,
one.
we have.
That is one investment I can tell you that has boomed, or should I say spiraled in terms of value. Right now, a typical unit in the first phase of that development is at $35 million. And those units were being initially sold for about $8 million. So buying early is important. I can tell you, you are persons who are looking to do things futuristically. Investment is real estate, one of the greatest investments you can take on right now. Saving in the bank is important. The thrift is important because that is what is going to propel you to own your home. So we give you those solutions, the saving solutions that will pivot you to reaching those goals of home ownership. You need to have that in place. So when you start, you have to have that. The aspect of debt consolidation is there as well. The same property you have can consolidate those high interest bearing loans, whether it be your credit cards, your unsecured loans, loans that you may have taken to do whatever it is. Sometimes we take
Norman
these loans.
Manley.
Yes, you can use your property equity to consolidate those loans to have you have more money in your pocket, because our objective is to ensure that you are not just taking a loan from us, but you can save at the same time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, I wanted to kind of dial back on, and by the way, thank you very much. You're very, passionate about it, and we love it. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, in terms of, in addition to peril insurance, would you suggest that, a current mortgager also insure the mortgage? So if they have a 10 million mortgage, that they also, do you offer that facility where they can also insure their mortgage via life insurance or any other means?
Yes, life
Can you tell
insurance
us
is
some
not
more about that?
mandatory, but it is strongly recommended. I encourage persons to buy their own life insurance and assign it to the loan, because the life insurance that the bank normally sells dies with the loan. There's no benefit after the mortgage. But if you have assigned your own policy, most of these policies have investments on them. So you may have taken a mortgage for, say, 15, 20, 30 years. While you're actually spending to pay the premium, you're saving at the same time. And at the end of the loan, you would have that policy given back to you. Whoever would have been your beneficiary would still be your beneficiary. It's just that the bank would not have an interest in that anymore, but you can continue with that policy afterwards. And I've actually been selling that to a lot of persons. Buy your own life insurance. Jane Life is another place you can go to get that. Very affordable.
JN is definitely a one-stop shop.
Indeed.
And what has been highlighted here today is how intricately and intertwined all of this is, because all of the documents, the mortgages, the transfers, all of these things, they have to be processed through National Land Agency.
All of us.
So this is so beautiful. This is so wonderful. I can't help myself.
All right, we will go to another production. So this one is about the having no title. So as many residents begin the difficult task of rebuilding in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, another serious issue that has come to the forefront of land ownership and access to financing. For some Jamaicans, homes passed down through generations were never formally registered, and now in seeking assistance from financial institutions, they are being asked to produce titles that they do not necessarily have. Today, we will speak with Mr. Bill Gates from Little London in Westmoreland, who says hurricane damage has left his family displaced and unable to access a loan because he cannot prove ownership of the property he has lived on for decades. We will also share information again from the National Land Agency about the process of land registration and getting their title. So we will pull on Mrs. Harrison again after this clip.
For ongoing post-Melissa updates. Today we have with us a resident from Little London, Westmoreland, Jamaica, Mr. Bill A. How are you today, sir?
Well, I'm kind of stressed out, you know. I kind of 12 years now, me live here, and we catch up. I mean, I really get no help. Me lose piece on my roof. If you look over there, so you see fly gone. I don't know when you fly gone. Me not get no help from bank or nothing, you know. My father, they left a piece of place to give me. About 40 years now, but you know I go, we have to go and fight.
You've seen a fight in the good side. Did you ever try to get a title before?
Well, I know I say one day a long time there. Me give a man one money, he say he can get one title to it. But from the time there, me I call him and me not get him. So me just say, you know what, I make you go on. I don't bother with him for title.
How long has the land been in your family?
Why, a long time, you know. My grandfather he buy from blacks them. My grandfather he buy and we have it from the time. Yeah, man.
Okay, blacks for your family, I see that. Good going back. Do you know that there is a process to get the land registered and obtain a title if you didn't yet have one?
No, you know.
Mrs. Harrison, you had mentioned earlier in our discussion when persons don't have a title that they could use the tax receipt number. Am I correct?
Yes.
To aid in
Doing a search for the title.
the search for the title. So if they never had a title before, what would that process be at the National Land Agency?
Okay. So they want to know have a title.
Yes.
Okay.
First registration.
All right. So, under the Registration of Titles Act, there are some very strict requirements, right? So, you need to be able to show what we call root of title, which is really just being able to go back to say where the ownership came from. And you need to be able to go back at least 30 years. Now, the problem with that is not just going back, you need documentation. So, he said his grandfather bought it from blacks, and he would need to show a conveyance or what we call a common law title to show that it came from blacks in the 60s or the 70s. And then, because it came from his father, he now has to show how it came from his father to him. If his father is dead, you need to do an application for probate where the father left a will, or where the father did not leave a will, an application for letters of administration, so that the interest can be passed from the executor or the administrator to him as the beneficiary. Again, you hear how concerned he was after a while he gave up, because, and that has been the challenge for a lot of Jamaicans, because it is so expensive, because we have a culture of word of mouth in this country, so we don't have proper documentation. That's the first thing. And the cost to do a first registration, you're first required to get a survey. You must have a survey diagram, right? So the last time I checked, to survey a quarter acre of land was roughly $110,000. So you imagine somebody have your farmland, your 5 acre lot or your 1 acre lot here. Let's lose at 1 acre. You're looking at roughly $600,000 just to survey the land, right? After you have surveyed the land, then you need to provide documentary proof. And again, I said, if you got it from your father, you need to probate. The lawyer's going to charge you 5 to 9% of the value of the estate. Looking at another $1 million, roughly, for administration. And then, if you are taking, perhaps when your dad left the will, he said, quarter acres for you, the other half for the other brother. You're looking at subdivision. So again, you need a surveyor to do a blueprint to survey the entire 1 acre, cut up the thing, send it to parish council then sends it to the different agencies, pay NWA, pay NEPA their fee, pay, so it can, again, you're looking at another $1 million for subdivision. And that is why the Special Provisions Act was passed, because we recognize that the average person, not even a normal person, can't afford those kinds of money. So with the Special Provisions Act, we have gone to the point where we have even said, even if you don't have documentation, the Act basically says if you don't have documentation, but you can prove that you have had possession for over 12 years, using the Limitations Act, for 12 years, then we can refer your matter to what is called an adjudication committee. So Section 10 allows for a committee to be formed. This committee is chaired by an attorney at law for over 10 years, a surveyor who has had 10 years experience, somebody from the community, a justice of the peace, and a minister's representative. There are 5 persons on the committee. It's an oral adjudication, basically. You are just asked to speak the truth, and it's done usually in a church hall or school hall to facilitate the regular person, right? An advertisement is done before the actual date of the hearing, and we just ask the persons to bring persons within their community, a person preferably over 50 who can speak to the history of the land. So they'll basically say that we know the land to have belonged to Georgette in the 1970s. She had title for the land, but then she died in 1980, and since that time, our friend has been on the land. Yes. And so he can show his 12 years. Once he can show his 12-year period, the chairperson will issue what is called an adjudication certificate declaring him to be the owner. Now, the committee can either give an absolute certificate or a certificate that is dependent on other things, right? So they may say to him, what happened, you have other siblings? Because if his dad died and left the land for him, then it's possible, and there are other siblings, that they also have an interest. And he may say in his application, no, but because we have a JP on our committee, and we have somebody from the community on our committee, they will pull the chairperson and say, no, we know that he has 2 brothers, right? So at that point, we're going to ask him, what happened to those 2 brothers? So he either has to get an indemnity from the 2 brothers to say they're not interested in their share of the property, or we can give him an absolute title. All right? So the title, once he gets the certificate is lodged along with the pre-check plan, and $15,000 is paid at the title's office, and within 6 weeks the title will be issued. What that does is that it bypasses the referees. So under the Registration of Titles Act, you had to go through a referee. The Registrar of Title has no control over what the decision that the referee makes. So if a referee is not convinced that you can establish your 30 years, that you have documentation, documentary proof, he's going to reject your application, and say, no, you can't get title. But if your matter is sent through an adjudication committee, and the committee gives you a certificate, your matter doesn't go before a referee again. It goes straight to the registrar, and title will be issued. All right? So I'm encouraging everyone, especially young lawyers, as soon as you come out, we do what is called a LAM seminar, a certification of our attorneys. Come and get your certification. We teach you everything about the Special Provisions Act. You will need it. Your clients will need it. Your clients will benefit from it. And in addition to that, you get 6 points for your GLC. Right? So, yes.
That really sounds very interesting, and we probably have to really take up that challenge.
Sounds good.
The question is whether now that the person has their title now, can they take their title to NHD? Is this a question for you or for Mississippi?
Yes, they can. So once you have a registered title, then you'll be able to access any facility at National Housing Trust. Now, we do understand there are some challenges as relates to getting the titles registered. So what we have done at the NHG is offer a little bit of support in getting that done. However, it's not just solely to register your titles. You must be actively getting a loan through the NHD. So what we've done is periods. So let's say, for example, you are looking to build on your family land, but the family doesn't have any, the title is not yet registered. So what you are interested in constructing, so what we what we have done is that we are saying that we can offer you up to $1 million to assist in registering your name on the title. However, that is, we don't give the individual the funds now, so that is done through you, the attorneys. So now what happens that they indicate who is representing them. We write a letter to the attorney indicating what is required in this procedure. So therefore, once the attorney understands, then they can start that process to also, one, get their name registered on the title, as well as getting the loan to the NHG. But I said there must be a twin. It must be twin. So it must not be coming to just solely getting the title registered.
Okay, very, very informative information there, Mr. Sibes.
Mrs. Stewart Harrison, and for those who are, watching from the diaspora and, overseas, who does want to find out, what if this person, from St. Elizabeth, they have this property and they don't think, they have the property for years and they don't think there's a need to, bring it on the registration of titles because they're going to deadlift it anyway. So, what would you say to such a person tuning in?
I'd say two things. One, that a registered title means that your property is registered in a registry. And what that does is that it gives assurance to third parties who you have to deal with, your bankers, your mortgagees, your caveators. So whenever their liens or caveats are lodged against the title, it is registered, and so anyone can go and do a search to confirm, one, that you own it, and two, confirm that your property is clear, or they will also have information as to whether or not it's not clear, right? The second thing is that it gives you an assurance that your title is good against the whole world, right? And so what you have is what we call security of tenure. And security of tenure allows you, I've known persons who live on lands, they want to add on a room, they want to build it up, but they're afraid because the rightful owner may turn up, an aunt or a cousin may come and make a claim. And so when you have a title, you have security of tenure, and you can then use your title to advance yourself. You can get loans, you can use it for collateral, you can use it for investment. And so yes, it might cost a lot of money. And what I used to tell my clients when I was in private practice is, once you register your title, your land triples and the value, the value. Yeah. So when you're selling unregistered land for $1 million, that $1 million land could become $15 and $20 million. Once so you invest $1 million, it is worth it at the end of the day.
Right. So, Mrs. Harrison, you're telling us then that there are several and many benefits to having your title registered, your property registered, and to access those kind of benefits.
Yes, and it doesn't have to cost you that much if you come through the Land Administration Management Division.
Oh, that is good to know.
Oh, we'll just hand over to our host to field any questions. Thank you. At this time, we invite questions from our audience, whether online or in the room. Any questions?
You mentioned the Section 10 of the Special Provisions Act. I'm sorry. Okay, you mentioned Section 10 of the Special Provisions Act, where it's the adjudication committee meets. But would that be separate from the registration of titles, cadastral mapping, and tenure? So clarification, special provisions, is it separate from that?
No, it's not. Right. So what happened, as the name suggests, the act was put in place to, one, clarify ownership, and it was also put in place to allow us to use cadastral maps. So when LAMP was formed in the early 2005, it was just a project, and it started in St. Catherine. And what the government did was to use the funds to build maps. And by cadastral, we mean just maps across. Instead of doing individual maps, we did several maps of a particular area. And they were given CAD map numbers. So once you have a cadastral map, there's no need with a regular survey or diagram, it's only good for 7 years, but a cadastral map is good forever. So if you live in an area that already has cadastral maps, there's no need to get an individual plan for your land. All right, so the Act allows us to use cadastral maps. The Act allows us to clarify, so not just for registration, it allows us to assist persons who already have title, but they want to do things like add a name or take off a name. The Act allows us to do administration and help persons with those things that prevent us from proving root of title. You know, the letters of administration, the probate applications that you need to bring you to the next level.
So if that land area is not a part of the region, the mapping region, would it fall outside of that, outside of the Act?
Right, so as I indicated, Section 3 allows the minister to declare areas as project areas, and today all parishes have been declared, save and except for parts of Kingston and St. Andrew. So once you're in any other parish, your land automatically falls under this Act and you can get the benefit. Okay?
Any other questions?
Hi, afternoon. 2 follow-up questions. One for NHT. You mentioned the facility where eligible family members can apply for a loan for non-contributing family members who have been impacted by Melissa. That's what you said, right?
It's grant.
Grant.
The $500,000 grant, yes.
The second one was the family member can apply for an individual up to, I didn't get the amount. Is that one and same as the grant for the 500,000?
Yes, so that's what I'm referring to. It's a grant for the $500,000. So family members persons who are not contributing to the NHD,
Yes.
family members who are contributing, they can apply for that individual to get access to the funding to repair their unit.
Okay. In relation to concessions in terms of immediate repayment of loans that you're granting to contributing members of the NHD, is there any consideration to allow for a period, a moratorium period, or a delay in commencing repayment once they've been given that facility to renovate, to rebuild, without the immediate need for debt servicing?
These are for new mortgages you're referring to?
Yes, for the facilities that you have offered to clients who have been impacted and they're rebuilding.
And the question is, are there consideration or do we already have?
Whether you have and or whether there are any contemplation for considerations for delayed debt servicing once they have accessed those facilities for rebuilding.
Okay, good question. All right. As relates to are we contemplating that, I wouldn't be able to speak on immediately. However, we do have some facilities in-house where we do offer persons in active mortgage benefits, such as moratorium. Persons can access it based on their scenario. So we do look at individuals to provide as much support as possible. So it's not a facility that is offered extended to everybody. What we do is look at the scenario on a case-by-case scenario. But in the initial stage, what we need to be clear about as well, if from the initial stage, if you're coming to us for a loan, you need to show that there's an affordability factor. Because if you're unable to afford it, and then at the same time you're unable to afford it, and then asking for some special provisions, then that's something that we may need to look at. So it's not something that can be extended immediately. You follow?
So I'm following you, but the question is in a context that the family has been impacted by hurricane. They want to rebuild. You're offering them this facility to rebuild. They may have additional expenses, right? Which is a loan
aspect of it.
Yes, but they may have additional expenses within the near term, which is contributing to rebuilding. So immediately upon getting the approval of the loan, you give them some concession as to commence in repayment 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. So that's the thought process that I had as to whether that was something on the table.
The affordability aspect comes first, and I do understand. I'm not saying it's a no, because with the NHD, we try to be very flexible and supportive to our contributors to see how best we can offer support. So it's not an immediate no, but something that you could put in writing. However, it comes back again to you asking for the loan to support. We understand that there's a need for it, but there's also a repayment aspect to it as well. So, because we do have scenarios where persons have lost their jobs, where we do offer moratorium for such scenarios. So in the event we'll say, okay, now what we'll do, we'll pause your mortgage for about 6 months, and then after 6 months we'll give you some time to maybe get a new job. So we do have those scenarios that we do extend to these individuals. Sometimes persons may also change jobs, and their income would have been impacted because they were probably getting, let's say, 5 million, but now their income now dropped down to 2.5. So now that is something that that's a benefit that is somebody who is active, who's already with the mortgage now asking us to look at something now. Okay, then you give it the mortgage, but we won't tell her to start as yet. And I'm saying it's not a no, but it could be something that you could put to us in writing that we could look at.
Okay, the government could consider it and reduce the payment to the budget. Mr. Smith, earlier you mentioned without apology that JN is the premier financial institution that gives construction loans that make sense of the 100% financing. You make specific reference to construction loans. So I want a little clarity in terms of the detail. If I'm purchasing my land initially and I intend to build on it, are you saying to me that I require absolutely no equity for the acquisition of the land and to construct the house, and you're saying Jane will finance both without me having to give you $1 out of pocket?
All right, so thanks for that. I'm gonna answer that question, but a follow-up to what you had asked him. I'm just gonna say something to you. When it is that you get a home improvement loan, a construction loan from JN, you don't start paying the full mortgage until you have finished your project. You only pay the interest on the tranches of funds that are given to you to undertake the project, along with insurance for life and property. So that's a good thing for persons who are building and improving their homes. You don't pay the full payment until you have finished your project. No.
Just to add, because based on what he said, because I was answering the question you asked. So we do have a facility in which you do not repay your mortgage immediately, which is under a construction loan facility or build on own facility. You pay that after 1 year. You get, but based on the question you asked, though, that would come under home improvement. With home improvement or home improvement facilities, and you start repayment, I believe, is after 1 or 2 months. You pay under the home improvement. But it looks like Jehen has a little bit of good stuff.
Yeah, man, definitely. So the question now that you'd asked about the land, you're saying that you'd have acquired the land already?
No, I am acquiring the land as well as needing the funds to construct.
All right, so for land purchases, we can lend up to 75% of price or value. And we can give you 100% to build a house. So land is one thing, 75% to build 100%. So we look at the aggregate of loans that are going to be given. The portion given for the land plus that portion that you're going to be getting to build. Once they aggregate to less than the projected value of what this project is going to be, we can give you 100% once it is that you are able to afford it. All right? So the good, another plus is that we monitor your construction projects. So you and I may not be able to quantify $5 million being injected in the project. We have a contractor that is employed to the bank that comes out to say, okay, we gave you the $5 million to do A, B, C, D, and E. I'm now coming to ensure that A, B, C, D, and E has been done, and that $5 million was injected in the project to do that. So if we're there to protect you, the consumer, and as well ourselves.
All right. Thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to wrap up. For anybody who has any other questions, we could write them down and perhaps see if we could get them answered at another time. As we bring... Go ahead. So as we bring today's discussion to a close, we'd like to thank our panelists for sharing the practical timely insights to our audience and the thoughtful questions and the engagement. Through our case studies, we explored 3 critical issues that affect, property owners and aspiring property owners, replacing loss or damaged title, accessing housing support from the National Land Agency, National Housing Trust, and Jamaica National, and navigating situations where there is no registered title at all, and emphasizing the importance of a title. We also benefited from practical solutions on how to get a title, how to sort out your lost title applications. We're reminded of paying property tax, that paying property tax alone is not really any sign of ownership on its own. We got some information about the financing, the grants, the loans available, and the mortgage moratorium, importance of home insurance, peril insurance, life insurance, and the risks that we are exposed to, being in this section of the world, being prone to disasters like hurricanes. The key takeaway from today is simple but powerful. Documentation, preparation, and information matter. Whether it's safeguarding your title, ensuring your insurance is current, and understanding your eligibility for assistance, proactive steps need to be taken to ensure that you're adequately prepared for tomorrow's challenges. On behalf of our organizing team, we thank you all. For members of the diaspora viewing overseas and here in the studio audience, we thank you for being a part of this important conversation. We hope that you leave better informed, more prepared, and empowered to take the necessary steps to protect your home, your life, and your future. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I now turn over to my beautiful and effervescent host. Thank you, Latoya. And as Latoya stated, I want to thank everyone for coming out today, for tuning in online, and thank you to our presenters once more, Mrs. Georgette Stewart-Harrison, Mr. Sean Sibley's, and Mr. Kendall Smith. We were able to appreciate the notion of bouncing back and being more resilient in spite of devastations. Now I invite Ms. Claudette Strudick, our group member, to make a presentation to each of our guests, a token of our appreciation. To Mrs. Georgette Harrison. To Mr. Sean Sibley's. And to Mr. Kendall Smith. Thank you, Claudette. We also wish to acknowledge the organizers of the fair, the technical team, and our sponsors, the University of the West Indies, along with BCIC, and to everyone who helped to make this presentation possible. We thank you all. We wish you a good rest of the day, and stay tuned for the presentation from our other colleagues to come in this legal aid fair. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.